Hey, what's up, everybody? It's just Charleston, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and when we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we have a pretty serious episode. So before we get into this video, make sure you go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Now, let me get into this topic. First of all, I was actually a bit unsure if I wanted us to produce this particular show today. And before even doing this, before even doing this video, we actually put up a poll on our channel about an hour ago where we polled our audience and we asked them, should we cover this topic, right? You know, the comments that he made. And in about an hour or so, 2,300 people voted, and it's basically split down the middle. Literally, 51% say yes and 49% say no. And I knew that we were going to get some type of we were gonna get this type of reaction from our audience. So I said to myself, if we're gonna produce this show, we have to have a common sense way of doing it, and we have to do it in a very insightful way. Now, as it pertains to LeBron, we all know that LeBron is one of the most vocal athletes in the world when it comes to social issues, and to a certain extent, even political issues. Right? LeBron, he never shies away from giving his opinion on various matters. You just heard the recent comments that he had to make about the current sitting president. So LeBron, you know, we all know what his political leanings are, and that's primarily because he is the one that usually comes out there and voices his opinions. So, you know, we know that about him. And I think LeBron at this point understands that whenever he, you know, delves into these type of topics, he's going to create a lot of conversation, and a lot of people are going to have some things to say. Now, I was recently listening to an episode, or watching an episode, whatever, from his show, The Shop. And during the show, they were talking about, I guess, the mindset of an athlete. I think they had a soccer player there. His name escapes my memory at the moment. And they were talking about, you know, being in the zone. And they were talking about playing in contentious environments. And I'm assuming he's talking about playing in away games. And I think one of LeBron's friends was talking, and I think they asked him, why don't you like playing in Boston, right? And, you know, while he was giving his comments, he totally, you know, gave an unadulterated opinion on what he felt, or what he feels about, you know, the Boston Celtic, in this case, because he's a basketball player, the Boston Celtic fan base. So before we go any further, we want to play his comments, and then we're going to come back and really unpack it and react to what he had to say. So take a listen to what LeBron James had to say here.
In basketball, there are fans that you go play a way that they can literally take the game from you. You can feel like, damn, the fans is not going to let us win this one tonight.
Yes, I mean,
what places?
Boston.
Boston, yeah.
Why do you hate Boston?
Because they race. That's
they
why
nasty.
they will say anything, and it's fine. I mean, my life. I mean, I've been dealing with it my whole life. I don't mind it. Like, I hear it. Like, if I hear somebody like close by, I check them real quick. I move on to the game. Whatever. They're gonna say whatever the want to say. They might throw something on you. I mean, I got a beer thrown on me leaving the game. You know, like
Boston
it's Boston.
It's the only place in the NBA in America you go and they have like shirts that say like LeBron.
Yeah, it was like
whole section.
It was like a BJ T-shirt. I believe they probably sold it at the team shop.
No, they sold it outside the arena.
No, they sold it at the team shop. I'm Celtics had something to do with.
It's fun. I
So you heard what he had to say, and we tried to bleep out as much as we could because there was a lot of profanity there, and we don't use profanity here. So anyway, you heard what he had to say, and here are my thoughts on this. First of all, this is not the first time that any of us is hearing something like this about Boston, right? I think most sports fans, you know, at least NBA fans or American sports fans kind of heard, you know, this being said about Boston. Boston seems to have, it's a great place, but it also has this reputation when we're talking about from a sports aspect, right? Boston seems, to have this reputation, and there have been a plethora of athletes going all the way back to Bill Russell's playing days that have complained about racism in Boston. Now, on a personal level, I have never been to Boston. Never been to Boston. I was looking at some places to move to, and we looked at Boston, but we looked at it, but I don't know Boston. I've never been there, right? So I think it's important that I say that for just, for your edification, that you guys know I've never been there. So it's not like as if I'm speaking from, direct experience, but I have heard these things, being said about the place. Now, let's address LeBron's comments in depth, because I think we need to have a sensible, pragmatic conversation around what he had to say. I think the comments that LeBron made about Boston fans, I think it can spark one of two conversations around it. The first conversation can be, he is absolutely right, and let's talk about how racist of a place Boston is. That's the first conversation. And to a certain extent, it's understandable, because he's going to, if someone at that level with that amount of popularity and notoriety says something like that, it's going to automatically start a conversation, and you're going to have a lot of people that concur with him, say, yeah, absolutely, you're right. So it's going to start that type of, so that's one of the two things that could most likely happen. The second thing could be this. Okay, he's brought this issue to the forefront. Now, how can we look for ways to address it, or at the very least, try to limit it, so we don't have stories like this that are constantly reoccurring? We're not talking about eliminating it, because there's no way you can eliminate it, but at least try to curtail it, right? I think that can be the second conversation you can have. And not to say that you want to limit it in the entire city, but at least in sporting events, right? That's something that you can, that's a realm that you can kind of have some type of control over, all right? Like, how can we ensure that these type of things don't happen, at sporting events? And I think bringing awareness to this type of issue, number one, is very, very important, right? It's important for two reasons. Number one, it reminds people that probably have forgotten that it exists. And number two, it also makes some people aware of something like this that exists that they may not know. Don't assume that everybody knows this. Just don't assume that. Some people are not into sports, so they wouldn't even know that. So a conversation like this, when it's being sparked by a figure as popular as LeBron James, it can actually, do some good. But I also think it's very, very important that in that same vein, you look for sensible solutions to try to, deal with the problem. And I think LeBron is in a position, right, that many few are. He's in a position where he can get in the ear of the right people and be a part of the solution, right? I believe in bringing attention to this serious issue is very important, but I think it's also important to try to find ways to address it. Certainly, LeBron James has the connections. He may have the political connections. He definitely has connections within the sports world and beyond that. Like, I think LeBron, if he put forth an initiative to try to address something like this after bringing it up, I think he could make some serious headway. And I think when you do that, you then see the change you're looking for. Because I believe talking about it and making people aware of it is important. But if you stop there, then what usually ends up happening is that you bring awareness to it, we talk about it, we forget about it, it continues on. So there has to be some type of, initiative put forward to try to solve it. Now, some people will disagree with me. Some people will say, wait a minute, why is it LeBron's job to do that? LeBron is just an athlete, and he is just giving his opinion on it. And I would agree with you. He has every right to do that, and you'll be right in that vein. But I believe that if you see an issue that exists that you don't like, and you are in the position to do something about it, instead of waiting for somebody else to do it, then you should do it. Take the initiative, take the lead, and people will follow suit. Trust me, it happens all the time. So to me, I think they can find ways, at least from an NBA level, to try to come up with some policies to limit that type of behavior at games. Not to say that you can eliminate it all together. I just said limit it, because you have thousands of people in an arena, and there's no way you're going to be able to control thousands. But once you have certain mechanisms in place that can deal with things like this, that also allows you to make examples of bad actors then I think you can start to reduce it a little bit. These are just my thoughts. I'm not here to bash LeBron or Boston because I've never been to Boston. I don't know LeBron. I'm just giving my opinion on this issue, and I think that there are two ways you can go about it. You can either sit here, we can talk about it, we can debate about it, which is fine, but we can also look for some sensible solutions, right? Because I think once you bring awareness to an issue, that's the best moment to address the issue. So these are just my thoughts and opinions. And what I want to know from you guys, what do you think? Do you think that, someone, maybe not LeBron, maybe somebody else should put forth some actionable steps that we can take to address this issue? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts in the comment section. We catch y'all on the next episode. Peace.